Bro, I'm telling you, I think a lot of people don't understand how fascism works. I think a lot of people don't understand the ideology, what fascist movements have looked like historically, what it looks like when it's dying in its final stage. You don't have to read about it in a history book any longer. You can visualize it in front of you.
So Hasan Piker just dropped a bombshell analysis about America's collapse in the Middle East and why China is now calling the shots with Iran. This isn't your typical foreign policy take. He's arguing we're witnessing fascism's death throes in real time. Let's break down this geopolitical earthquake.
This post by him is an admission that he doesn't have the cards. If he had power, he wouldn't be crying on Truth Social.
He's absolutely right about Trump's Truth Social meltdown over Iran controlling the Strait of Hormuz. When you're the supposed leader of the free world reduced to posting angry social media rants, you've already admitted you're powerless. Real power doesn't need to tweet threats.
Once again, the cards are in their hands here, okay? The only pressure that I can foresee them getting from different country, from an outside nation, is probably China, because China doesn't want to destroy the Gulf. China wants the Gulf to not be destroyed. Israel doesn't care about the Gulf being destroyed. Iran might listen to Chinese demands, but there is no guarantee that they will actually fully abide by Chinese demands because they are unbelievably stubborn when it comes to sovereignty and making sovereign decisions.
This three-way dynamic is fascinating. Iran holds military leverage, China controls Iran's economic lifeline, and Israel operates with complete recklessness. What mainstream media won't tell you is that Iran's position here is actually stronger than America's, which explains why China had to step in as mediator.
But the reason why this is an L is because they're not applying any pressure to Israel, and they're not applying any pressure to America through back channels to say, hey, you have to, cut a separate deal here that actually makes sense for Iran. China should be applying infinitely more open pressure to the state of Israel for spoiling the ceasefire deal, a ceasefire deal that they're aggressively pursuing. And they're aggressively pursuing the ceasefire deal because Israel doesn't give a fuck about the GCC.
The fact that China won't pressure Israel directly tells you everything about Israel's unique position in global politics. Even Beijing, which challenges American hegemony everywhere else, treats Israel as untouchable. That should terrify anyone paying attention to who really runs American foreign policy.
It's crazy, but the assessment here is, unironically, that the entire world is basically begging America to put Israel in its place, okay? And Israel's like, nope, we're unbowed. And America's saying, yes, yes, sir. You do whatever you do, okay? They need to put the shock collar on Israel, go, Israel, place. A dynamic so insane that it lends credence to Zog-style theories for the uninitiated.
This is the most damning assessment of American power I've heard from any analyst. The supposed global superpower taking orders from its client state while the entire world watches in horror. The tail wagging the dog doesn't even begin to capture this insanity.
The U.S. position reportedly shifted after a call between Netanyahu and Trump. Oh my God, I'm done. I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. This is so crazy. It's just, it doesn't, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. It doesn't make any sense at all, dude.
That genuine shock reaction tells you everything. When someone who analyzes politics for a living is this stunned by a Netanyahu-Trump phone call shifting entire U.S. policy positions, you know we've entered uncharted territory. The influence operation is now completely visible.
We have lost this war. We are losing this war. We're still continuing to lose this war. We lost it already. The moment that Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz and started bombing the Gulf states, and America could not successfully deteriorate its stockpiles, successfully attrit its strike capabilities, it was over. And Iran knows it. Iran holds all the cards. And the only reason why Iran was down to engage in this ceasefire instead of continuing to establish military deterrence by striking Israel over and over again with successive strikes that have a higher degree of penetrating the entire defense systems that Israel has.
The military analysis here is spot on. Iran closing Hormuz and successfully striking targets while America couldn't adequately respond proved the empire's limits. When your adversary can dictate naval traffic through the world's most important oil choke point, you've lost strategic control completely.
It was extra eroded internationally when America pulled their THAAD interceptors from Korea to hastily send it to Israel, showcasing that they also were running out of this critical supply of anti-air defense system munitions. They took the batteries out and they brought them to Israel. This means that America was willing to literally take out critical defenses away from around China, like implying that they're willing to drop their dominance against their number one foreign adversary in an effort to try and defend Israel. These are unbelievable moves. It's clear that the United States is overextended. It's very clear that they're overextended. It's very clear that they cannot actually engage in military dominance everywhere around the world in the way that they had successfully presented for many, many years.
Moving THAAD systems from Korea to Israel is genuinely insane strategic thinking. America literally weakened its China containment strategy, its top geopolitical priority, to defend Israel. No rational empire sacrifices positioning against its primary rival for a secondary ally.
Iran holds all the cards. I know that that's not what it looks like if you only read American news, but I've been saying this since the end of week one. It was very clear. Once America and Israel started doing their bombing campaigns and Iran kept blowing up Bahrain, Iran kept blowing up Kuwait, Iran kept blowing up the UAE and Saudi Arabia while simultaneously successfully striking Israel over and over again. And in the process of the GCC strikes, destroying key radar and early advanced warning systems, shutting off America and Israel's eyes and ears in the region that played a formative role in their defenses so they could calculate missile trajectories ahead of time and successfully intercept them. Once Iran was able to do that, it was over.
Iran's systematic approach here shows sophisticated military planning, taking out early warning systems, disrupting intelligence networks, maintaining sustained pressure. This isn't random escalation. It's methodical dismantling of American-Israeli defensive architecture in the region.
Fascism looks like. It's understandable if you understand what a suicidal ideology Zionism and because fascism is. But America should be restraining Israel, and yet America is led by a philo-Semitic boomer moron who also is not listening to anybody and is probably dumb enough to think that there's a super secret military campaign that they haven't pulled off yet, but they could at any given moment. But they just simply didn't for the last 40 days. They had the capacity to do so, America, but they just didn't do it. And that's stupid.
The fascism comparison is historically accurate. Late-stage fascist movements consistently make self-destructive military decisions because ideology overrides rational strategy. Nazi Germany's two-front war, Imperial Japan attacking America, fascists choose ideological purity over survival.
Mersheimer even said his realist framework no longer works for Israel. It's completely irrational. Yes, the reason why it's completely irrational is because Israel's fascist. Israel's a fascist country. It was not rational for Rhodesia to try to do what it did. It was not rational for Nazi Germany to try to do what it did. It's not rational because they're fascist. It's that simple. Fascism is a suicidal death cult. It's a suicidal ideology. At the end of that, you have unlimited appetite for death and destruction against all of these enemies that you are dominating, that you think are lesser than, and ultimately you're going to fail. You're going to overextend.
John Mearsheimer acknowledging that realist theory doesn't work for Israel is huge. When the father of offensive realism admits a country operates completely irrationally, that's academic confirmation of the fascist diagnosis. Rational actors don't destroy their own strategic interests repeatedly.
I can't think of any time in history where the junior partner has had this level of control over the dominant empire. I don't think it's ever happened. Nothing like this has ever happened throughout history. Like, empires rise and fall, but oftentimes empires rise and fall because of their own mistakes. And this is a mistake, obviously, that America will own. Maybe there is a historical example that is not coming to mind right now. Maybe there is a historical example, but I have never, I can't recall ever a time where you had an empire that was completely captured by another country or another influential figure from the outside.
There's literally no historical precedent for this relationship. Roman client states, British dominions, Soviet satellites, none ever controlled the empire's foreign policy against its own interests. We're witnessing something entirely new. Imperial capture by ideological extremists.
I said America's on a suicide pact with Israel that Israel controls that will completely destroy the global energy markets, and most people are oblivious to how badly the U.S. is losing. demanding ceasefires against the hardened Iran that's only responding in the affirmative due to pressures by China. Meanwhile, everyone with proximity to power in the U.S. is behaving like vultures, picking apart the corpse of the U.S. for scraps. What a time to be alive.
The vulture metaphor perfectly captures Washington right now. While America bleeds resources in an unwinnable Middle East conflict, defense contractors, lobbyists, and politicians are getting rich off the decline they're actively enabling. It's institutional cannibalism.
The reason why European allies are saying no to Trump is because if Iran is crazy enough to fight against America and win, what good is a European carrier going to do? You might as well ask the UAE for help, you know? You understand? What the f is France gonna do, bro? What is France gonna do? What's Germany gonna do? What's the UK gonna do? Send 10,000 troops? America has a larger military than all of these countries combined. They have a larger military and a larger navy than all of their navies combined. They have a larger air force than all of their air forces combined. What are they supposed to do? If you fight back against America and win, then what the fuck are they supposed to do?
European allies refusing Trump isn't emotional. It's rational strategic calculation. If America, with its massive military advantage, is struggling against Iran, why would smaller European forces want any part of that disaster? They're cutting their losses.
It's like Israel is dominating Trump into making stupid decisions, and then Trump is trying to dominate the European vassals. This is all it takes for everyone to just stop all of this is to say fuck off to Israel, okay? You guys are insane. Everyone is insane. Oh my God, Eurocucks. I don't understand why Europeans are so reluctant to just send two ships to the Strait and keep Trump happy, because they're risking the U.S. leaving NATO, and we all know Europe alone against Russia isn't looking good. I'm saying this as someone who lives in Europe. Wait a minute. I thought the Europeans were saying we're fine without Trump. We'll defend Ukraine on our own. What happened? Wasn't that the flex mode that Keir Starmer was like, we're going to deploy our troops to the Ukraine to defend the Ukraine? And then Macron was also entertaining sending troops to Ukraine. What happened?
The contradiction is glaring. Europe claimed it could handle Russia independently, but panics when asked to help with Iran. This exposes NATO's fundamental weakness. Members will only fight wars they think they can win, and nobody thinks America can win this one.
I think a lot of people don't understand how fascism works. I think a lot of people don't understand the ideology, what fascist movements have looked like historically, what it looks like when it's dying in its final stage. You don't have to read about it in a history book any longer. You can visualize it in front of you. But a lot of people can't comprehend, I think partially because of the original historic fascist movements and their primary victims being Jews in the Holocaust. A lot of people can't make that connection that like Israel and Zionism is a fascist ideology and Israel's a fascist state experiencing an identical version just with modern weapons and, you know, some modern restrictions. They don't understand it. They're like, these guys, wow, they're fucked up. It's like, no, they're not fucked. I mean, they are fucked up, but they're fucked up because they're fascist. When you hear stuff like this, when you see stuff like this, you're like, what the is wrong with this guy? He's out of his dang mind. And you're like, no, it makes a lot of sense when you realize like it is literally just a fascist country going through the final stages.
The historical irony is staggering. A movement born from Holocaust trauma has become the very thing it claimed to oppose. Recognizing fascist patterns regardless of who implements them is exactly what studying history should teach us. But ideology blinds people to obvious parallels.